Hello. This, my second video, is based on a particular record that got me into American hardcore punk rock in 1981. Before that, I was listening to a lot of new wave, British new wave, and the only American punk rock I knew was maybe Dead Kennedys, Ramones, what else I'd say, Plasmatics, and the Dickies, obviously. Well, everything changed once this album, Let Them Eat Jellybeans, was released in 1981 for European and British consumption. And it featured a lot of bands like Flipper, DOA, Black Flag, which led me to a lot of other bands. So I spent 25 years looking for most of the bands on this record, and that finally happened after going to the States. Found a lot of them, most of them out of print. Anyway, this record came with a poster. I'll fold it out here a little bit. Big monstrous thing. There we go. Is that upside down and inside out? Yes, it is. Let It Eat Jellybeans. And there was a whole bunch of extras with this, like extra bands that you could look out for that were related to this. And we'll fold it back under again. We'll there for now. And we've got Flipper was the first band on this. We just heard them here. It was their first single, 1980, came out on Subterranean Records. Later that year it came out on Alternative Tentacles. The A-side was Love Canal, and the B-side was Ha Ha Ha, a song that Jello Biafra answered a lot of songs, or a lot of questions, with this particular song that went ha 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 ha, ho 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 ho, hee 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 hee. Great song, classic. Anyway, we'll go on to the next band on this was DOA. This EP is sort of like Positively DOA, which came out in 81 as well. Got this almost straight away. Fantastic record. Then there was Black Flag. Six Pack wasn't on the album. This Six Pack 7-inch that came out on Alternative Tentacles as well, and SST. And that came out in 82, I believe, which was followed by TV Party. Another single by Black Flag. They had Henry Rollins on vocals. Anyway, their track was Police Story, and the next track was Pay to Come by Bad Brains. Now this is a 12-inch released on Alternative Tentacles from 1982. The Alternative Tentacles logo. You get your old Bad Brains logo there as well. Good stuff. And this was released shortly after the Roar cassette. And the Roar cassette was the first thing that Bad Brains put out. I think actually before it, maybe the Pay to Come single was out. And the album itself didn't come out until much later, but this is the 12-inch of 3 songs from that album, and it was Virus 13th record on Alternative Tentacles. Then we had Dead Kennedys, of course, were on it, and this is a bootleg copy of the song from Urban Music War. It was a film done in 1981, I believe, and this is a recording of Bleed For Me from 1980, which was recorded live and came out later on their Plastic Surgery Disasters record. The B-side of this was Holiday in Cambodia. I made a cover for this because I had a crappy sleeve, and the sleeve is the same as Plastic Surgery Disasters, the 82 album that had Believe Me on it, and it was photographed by a guy called Mike Wells. And the B-side I based on the Irish pressing of the 7-inch single of Holiday in Cambodia. Put that over there. Next, this led me to the Witch Trials, which was actually released 1981 on Subterranean Records first, and later Alternative Tentacles Records. It has 4 songs, and by Jello, Biafra, East Bay Ray, Christian Lunch, who we'll get to later, Morgan Fisher, and Adrian Borland, who was the singer from The Sound, and quite a few other bands. Put that over here. Then that was actually very weird horror stories. Not really that punky, but fantastic. Speaking of not punky, Klaus Fluoride's solo record, first solo record other than the 12-inch shortening bread. That came out, this came out in 1985, had like 7 songs on it. It also has D.H. Peligro, who drums on Plastic Surgery Disaster from there on. Great record, very experimental, cha-cha-cha with Mr. Fluoride. Then, well, we're going on Dead Kennedys right now, and we're getting into other stuff that came from that. Anyway, this is East Bay Ray's solo single from 1984. Alternative Tentacles again. There we go. And that was like 2 very poppy country songs. The next thing is Jungle Studs. Jungle Studs were a member of Flipper, Dave Plager again, from the member of Flipper was a drummer. It had D.H. Peligro, guitar vocals, a few other people, and they were fantastic. Like, not punky, but very rock and roll in a very cool way. Anyway, then we had led to another D.H. Peligro thing, Part-Time Christians, which he played in this band for a while, also came out on Alternative Tentacles. This came out in 1984 on Alternative Tentacles. Then there was the first non-American band, Grom Grom, which moved to the States and became Steel Pole Bathtub. That ended up being the backing band of Tumor Circus, Jello Biafra's later band. These bands were from Sydney, Australia originally, and this came out, I think it was 1983 in Australia, but not until about 1986 in the US and England. Then the last of the Jello-y stuff is Guantanamo School of Medicine's last single, which I think were quite good. We'll put them over there. Then, next we shall go on to Giza X, who was also on Them Eat Jellybeans. This is a demo recording from 1979 of Practicing Mice and Mino Wannabe. So that's a pretty great single. His first single, however, and he did the production on a lot of punk rock records. He did it on Holiday in Cambodia for Dead Kennedys. Here's the single, the very first single, which was Pony Ride, and the other one was, Rock and Roll, RX Rock and Roll. Can't forget that one, which I do regularly again because I'm scatterbrained. Anyway, one of my favorite songs by him came out in 1982 on Alternative Tentacles again, and it was We Need More Power. And that is an absolutely fantastic banger of a record. You should look these things up. Most of them are on YouTube, and if they weren't, I'd put videos of them on anyway. So the next one is Giza X again. Love this guy. He's like very quirky, very weird. He had both John Doe and DJ Bonebreak from X at one stage play on this album, and this is from 1981, I believe, and it's an original pressing. Really, really, really hard to get. Came with a little Save Us Giza sticker, which is right about here somewhere. And I'll leave that over here. Next, a band called Bee People. Bee People were a band on 40 Products, which was sort of linked with Alternative Tentacles for a while. Didn't last very long. They were a band that the lead singer had people in the Germs in his band, and quite a few others that are well known to a lot of people from old punk bands from the States. And this album is a pretty tough one to come across. Pretty cheap if you do find it though, which is great. It's fantastic. It's like weird post-punk, new wave, and it's got like no real singles on it, but who cares? It's all fantastic. Also, this, the other Bee People album, which is really a compilation of all outtakes, alternative versions, and the guy that wrote all these songs, his name is Gibson. He did a lot of soundtracks. He did Dunkirk recently. He started off doing Suburbia soundtracks. That's the old punk film. Great movie. Then we've come straight on to another track from, or another band from Them Eat Jellybeans. This is Bite from Bait from an album called Shark Bait by a guy called Christian Lunch. And this is like really sort of obscure, new wavy, sort of dancey, poppy, industrial music of the time from 1981. And that's a great single. Now, as you see, it's not all punk, but it's related to punk, and most of these people were roughly around the same scene in San Francisco, like early 80s really. This is Voice Farm, another non-punk record, and this Voice Farm, their song Sleep was the last song on Let Them Eat Jellybeans. Modern Things is almost like Depeche Mode before Depeche Mode. Very dancey. I recommend this highly. I think I do have it on YouTube somewhere. Anyway, I'll put that over here. And their second single, I don't really recommend much after these two singles because they went a little too commercial for my liking. But these songs, Double Garage, Elevate, this was released 1981 and released again with a blue cover on Alternative Tentacles in 1982. Won't go into it too much because we've got a lot to get through here. The Farts, one of the first bands from Alternative Tentacles that were like, to me, they're just very short, fast, hardcore punk rock songs. This is actually a reissue that came out on Alternative Tentacles in 1982. It was originally released on Farce Records in 1981, and they were from, I believe, Seattle, one of the first really great punk bands from Seattle that ended up being, well, the lead singer, Blaine, ended up in The Accused, which is a metal band from the early, was it late 80s? Yeah, I'd say late 80s. Next, we have some very alternative stuff. uh, Let Them Eat Jellybeans again led to this band, Bay of Pigs, that only had one single, but they had a couple of tracks on other compilations. Bay of Pigs were also on Subterranean Records out of San Francisco, and they were very experimental jazzy punk, which is like, it's great. You need different sounds from different bands. Everything had a different sound at the time. It was all punk or punk related. Fantastic. So that leads to Crime, probably the first band from San Francisco to get a record out. Them and maybe the Germs. But Crime were fantastic. And this is well worth checking out. Next one is another early band from San Francisco. It's sort of like new wavy post-punk. And they had like 3 singles out. All very, very hard to get. This is from San Francisco, 1978-79. And they didn't have an album out at the time, but this came out recently. It's half live, half studio. They're ready-mades. Actually quite an influential band to Dead Kennedys, especially East Bay Ray, I think. Next what we have is a band from New Jersey from 1981. This is TV programmed TV set and War on Crime. And this was released in New Jersey in 1981, and it's a great single. I think it's the only single they ever did, the only record they ever did. Well worth checking out. Doesn't cost a whole lot again. If you look on Discogs, it's there most of the time. Next, to my old place of work, Bleecker Bob's. How can I not forget that place? For so many records that I collected. Anyway, this is Testers, a single that was put out by Bleecker Bob in 1980, I believe. Yes, it was 1980. Let's double check that one. Yep, 1980 on Drive-In Music, which was Bleecker Bob's label, the only record that he put out. And this is the original of this. There's a story behind this that Sonny Vincent, the singer in this band, he didn't really get a lot of these records out at the time. Anyway, then there's this. There's Max's Kansas City record, which was a label and a venue in New York in the late 70s, early 80s. And this is a band called The Terrorists, and it's Riss Park, and one of my favorite reggae songs of all time, which is, yes, Justice. And this I have done a video for as well on YouTube. It's well worth checking out. The Terrorists, Justice. That was like 1980 as well, I believe. So next, we're going to another compilation album. The first compilation album that Dead Kennedys were on, Can You Hear Me Music from the Deaf Club, which turned into even more music because it had KGB that became No Alternative, the Offs, which were very reggae, fantastic, the Mutants, which were very avant-garde, new wave. Back cover of that one. Have 2 versions of this. This is the original pressing on Walking Dead Records, and it also had a band called Pink Section, which I'll show you later. Tuxedo Moon, great band. And here's the other pressing of this. This was the first pressing I got of this, which is on PVC Records, and it took me ages to find this, and even longer to find this. So next, as I said, KGB were on that. They were a band from California that ended up being No Alternative. Now they had a couple of EPs out in the early 80s, like Johnny Gotti's Gone. They did a cover of Meat House that Flipper's original band Negative Trend did in 1977, 78. San Francisco. We're talking San Francisco again. And this came out much later as a compilation of a lot of their stuff, and some of their tracks from this ended up on it. Okay, here we go. Tuxedo Moon. If you know Tuxedo Moon, you love Tuxedo Moon. They're a very strange band. They were on Ralph Records, which also had Snake Finger. It had a lot of oddball bands from San Francisco. And this is just a compilation of a lot of their early stuff. Basically like early 80s, up as far as about 83 I think on this particular record, which is 1,000 Lives. Yes, 1,000 Lives by Picture. Next, a band that sound a lot like, I would say B-52s, but better, in my opinion. Another band from San Francisco, The Mutants. And this is Fun Terminal, came out in 1982, I believe. Yeah, I think it was 82. And they're very new wavy, but a really great band. Another band worth checking out. And another band from that Can You Hear Me Music from the Deaf Club is this. I used to have original pressing of this. This is a reissue that came out on Super Verdict about 2 or 3 years ago. They're very avant-garde, sort of like new wave, post-punk. I make little sleeves for inners to make them just to know what I'm listening to, because track listings aren't anywhere on the record, so I look them up myself. Another band that are not a punk band, Units. This is only just reissued recently. Digital Simulation. It's from 1980 original. It's originally, and they're a very new wavy band, very dancey, all synths, no guitars whatsoever. Fantastic band. Let me see. Let's get through this. Tragic Mulatto. Now, Tragic Mulatto was a band from San Francisco. Very strange band, saxophones, very noisy. What can I say? They have quite a few records, all in alternative tentacles yet again. And they're an absolutely fantastic band that I have put videos on YouTube by them as well. Tragic Mulatto. Got about 4 or 5 albums. Well worth checking out as well. And everybody knows No Means No. No Means No, who have just recently released Wrong, or reissued Wrong, which was their 3rd album on Alternative Tentacles. Very hard to get. All their records now, for some weird reason, go for ridiculous prices, and it just drives me mad. So this is an original pressing, American pressing of No Means No, and it's an album called Small Parts Isolated and Destroyed. Fantastic bass lines on this, mind-boggling stuff of the time. And then them over here, another band. Actually, I've seen No Means No a couple of times live, but another band I've seen live a couple of times, well, like once in Cork, was Grotus, where someone stole their pedals. Some bastard stole their pedals. That I heard at least. Anyway, this is a very sort of like industrial band that are really original, very different. Grotus, and the album is called Slow Motion Apocalypse. I think that's what we're going through right now. Anyway, we'll go to the Slicky Boys. The Slicky Boys were from, what was it from? Virginia, I believe. And this is a singles compilation from 1976 to 1980, I believe. and it's got other singles from that time, and yet again had to make pictures of the sleeves of the singles and make a little cover inner sleeve for it, just to know what I'm listening to remember it, because I'm scatterbrained. Anyway, next we have the Wipers. Now this is a reissue of the Wipers' second single, actually, Alien Boy, which had like 4 tracks on it. It was like a record store day thing about 3 or 4 years ago, and they are one of my favorite bands of all time. Wipers, Alien Boy. Next, Wipers' first album, a reissue of that, which is This Real? Is this real? I just don't know. But pretty cool records. Made inner sleeves again myself, and treasure all their stuff. Another band really worth checking out. The song D7 is on this album. A lot of people will know it because Nirvana did a cover version of that song, and were very influenced by this band, Wipers, with Greg Sage. Next, okay, we're getting into the Minneapolis St. Paul stuff. This is the Suicide Commandos, and if you don't know this record, you need to check it out, because it's the rockiest rock and roll you can come across. Now this was originally on Blank Records. Let me pull that out. Blank Records. From 1977, I believe. And it was a label that also put out the first Perubu record, Modern Dance, which I think I might have talked about in the last video I did. But this had a guy called Bob Osgood, and he was sort of like a guitar teacher for Bob Mould. We all know Bob Mould was in Husker Du. So we'll put this over here. Great record. And speaking of Husker Du, we've got the first single from 1980, which is Amusement and Statues. This was reissued a while back. This is an actual first pressing. I think first and only pressing, maybe. That's their first single from 1980. Then they had, next single was In a Free Land, and it had What Do I Want and MIC. They were from St. Paul, Minneapolis. Met him once, actually. Grant Hart, at some party that I went to in Minneapolis when I was living there, rather than in St. Paul. Long, long time ago. In a Free Land. Fantastic record. Wouldn't part with that for the world. Then, recently, Extra Circus came out. Through the extra 5 tracks that would have been on Metal Circus that came out in 1983 on SST Records. And this is the outtakes from that, and well worth waiting for. Came with the box set, Savage Young Do, which is also well worth looking out for. Then there's 8 Miles High. We'll go over all the Husker Du singles as we're on the subject. This is an original pressing of that, American pressing of 8 Miles High, with Mexican World live on the B-side. Great old bird song, 8 Miles High. Fantastic. Then, next we have, the Zen Arcade promo. This is really hard to get. I will pull it out. It had, let me see, etching of a Husker Du logo on the back, which you cannot see on camera. You have to really put it up to the light to see it. And this came out in 1984 on, well, Zen Arcade came out in 84 on SST Records. This had like 8 or 9 tracks from that album. And on the B-side, before the etching, there was 8 Miles High that wasn't on Zen Arcade. It's like one of my favourite classic albums. So that's the promo for that, which was called, just From Zen Arcade. And it's a great record. Great record. So next we have another promo by Husker Du. This one was a single that came out in 1985. Yes, it was 1985. Celebrated Summer and what's the other one? New Day Rising. From the album New Day Rising as a promo for New Day Rising. Really tough to get now. Great record. One of my favourite Husker Du songs too, actually. Celebrated Summer. Then there's this, which is Makes No Sense at All. Came out in 1985 on SST Records. Had Love Is All Around as a B-side, which was the Mary Tyler Moore theme. I did a video for that for YouTube yet again around the time Mary Tyler Moore died. It went down pretty well because I mixed Husker Du traveling around Minneapolis in the same spots that her show had her traveling around Minneapolis. Okay, so next we have the Warren Brother years for Husker Du. First single they released was Don't Wanna Know If You Were Lonely. Sort of poppy, but I still loved it. And that came out in 1986, I think. Yeah, 86. Then there was Sorry Somehow. It's a double single. 87. And there shall be Could You Be the One? Freaking love this song. Love it. Especially every time the B-side was written by Greg Norton, that at this stage didn't write a lot of songs for Husker Du, but it's a little ditty. Fantastic. Well worth checking out. And the last one from Husker Du would be Ice Cold Ice, their last single on Warner Brother Records. And this is actually a promotional copy as well. But there goes that. For now, I will take a break. Blood orange cider. Lovely. Next we have Descendants. Descendants were a great California band. I think I like All a little bit more. Maybe that's sacrilege to say that, but I do. Anyway, this was Clean Sheets and Coolidge from the All album. All. And great record. Pretty hard to get now as well. And the next one is another promo by Minutemen. And that would be Courage and What It Is and Stories from Three Way Tie for Last, which came out in 1985. I think really their last studio album. Fantastic band, constantly changing. Well worth checking out again. And speaking of the Minutemen, Double Nickels on the Dime. This is a promo for that. And it's fantastic. Yeah, there's another name for it. And I'm a blind bat, so I keep forgetting. Yeah, Wheels of Fortune. Double Nickels on the Dime. It's a promo for that album. It's got 9 tracks that were on the album. And great. One of my prized possessions. Speaking of prized possessions. This is the Big Boys and the Dicks. 2 bands from Texas that were like punk as hell. Great. But gay bands. Went through a lot of trouble to get their records out. And this is sort of like a bootleg of outtakes from this album, which is really hard to get. It's Live at Rawls, 1980. Each band has like a couple of songs on each side live, and outtakes on this, which came out a lot later. And this is from 1980, and yes, great record. And speaking of the big boys, which were very funky, punky, can't really describe the big boys. I got this from Biscuit Turner, who was the lead singer in this, on St. Mark's Place. I met him a few times while he was selling jewelry at St. Mark's Place. Told him how much I loved his music, and he gave me this card, his business card I guess, and told me he'd bring me this Big Boys EP, Fun Fun Fun, which was their like second EP in 1982, I believe. Let me double check again. No, yeah, 1982 on Moment Records. And he brought it into me, and it was a demonstration promo copy, and he gave me all the information with it, and the press release and everything. I couldn't believe my luck. He was such a nice guy, and unfortunately he died the year after I met him, which is not very nice. So, other than that, I have good memories of him. And then, another Texas band, Butthole Surfers from 1983, first record on alternative Tentacles. And yeah, this is the UK pressing, original UK pressing that I've had an awful long time. Treasure it. Weird band, but I love every bit of weirdness about them. Always have. Butthole Surfers, Butthole Surfers. A lot of people call this just the Butthole Surfers EP, or there's another name for it as well, A Brown Reason to Live, yeah, that is not anywhere on the record itself. But that came out in 1983. And I was introduced to them in 1983 thanks to Alternative Tentacles. Okay, we're nearly done here. We're going through it pretty quick. This is a new acquisition for me. Got it recently in a local record store, The Bunker. It's Channel 3. It's their second album. And got a single on it called what is it? Yeah, Separate Piece. And then it has Stupid Girl by the Rolling Stones cover version. And this is only reissued recently on Drastic Plastic. It's a label, I think, from the States, as far as I know. And it's fantastic. It's remastered by Kevin Gray, of all people. You would never think Kevin Gray would be wanting to do a punk record. Very like The Clash, this is. Great record though, fantastic. And the last one is another reissue I've got recently of Suicidal Tendencies' second album that had the original bass player and the singer Mike Muir, obviously. And this was reissued recently and sounds fantastic, done by Bernie Grundman. Who knows? So thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and all my stutters and everything. So I'm gonna light a cigarette and get out of here. Take care, see you soon.